Hello everyone, this is Jordan. Welcome back to the Daily Gold YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Labor Day, September 1st, 2025. Hope you all had a great weekend and hope you all are having a great end to the Labor Day weekend. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. Very recently, I published a video discussing my expectations for where the gold price could reach over the next year to 2 years. And if I did that, I have to do the same thing for silver. So that's what we're getting into today in this edition of Macro Mondays. We're thinking about the expectations for where silver could go in the next year or two. So we're using technical analysis here. We're looking at history, looking at intermarket analysis as well, and doing all those things. We're going to put it together and come up with realistic expectations over the next few years. So enough of the preamble here. Let's get right to the video. So first, when we're looking at markets and where they could go, you have to understand not just the big picture, but the very big picture. And we know the very big picture for silver, it is trading within this massive 45-year long base. Now, I know that this looks like a cup and handle, and I've said in other videos, technically it's not a cup and handle, but let's not worry about that because whether it is or it's not, this is a super bullish 45-year long base. And eventually when silver breaks out, this is going to lead to a spectacular move higher, regardless of whether it breaks out really soon or it takes longer than we all think. That is the reality with the way this is setting up. And we should also note, this is going to be the biggest breakout in capital markets history, dating back to 1972, when we saw the greatest breakout in the history of capital markets. That was gold breaking out of a nearly 110-year long base. So this is setting up for an extremely significant breakout in silver. Let's move on here and look at the other charts. Okay, so we understand the very big picture. Let's look at the near term to the medium term. Now, this is a monthly chart for silver, and at the end of the month, that's when you have to look at the monthly charts and assess them. And by the way, the end of next month, that's the end of the quarter, so that's even more significant. But we're talking about the end of the month here. Here's where silver closed, the spot market just under $40 an ounce. This is the key support now, 35, high 34s, and silver broke out of this. It's a little unconventional ascending triangle, or you can call it a base here like that. But regardless of how you look at it, this measures up to $41. And I've been talking about $41 for months now. So that's where this is headed. But in addition to that, the monthly chart is showing right here in the high 41s, that's the next significant resistance because we've taken out 35. That's what we did 3 months ago. So high 41s here on the monthly chart. If you were to look at the weekly chart, I believe the highest weekly close, I want to say it's 43 or in the high 42s. So this breakout that we saw above 35, that projects to $41 an ounce, but there's more significant resistance around 42. So maybe this move could get to 42, even tick 43 before we see a pause or even a pullback. So 42, 43 is where we're headed. Then you probably get a pullback at that point. So that's the near to medium term for silver. Now, intermarket analysis. You know I love my 60-40 charts. So here's silver. We can see that beautiful 45-year long base. And I believe this is a monthly chart, although this doesn't say here. Yes, it is a monthly. So this is silver divided by the 60-40. Now, if you follow my videos, you know in the last year or two, I was talking about gold against the 60-40. And in March of this year, gold against the 60-40 broke out of a 10-year long base. And what happened after that? Well, capital really started flowing in to not just gold, but silver and the silver stocks. They started really outperforming, and gold stocks as well. So with respect to silver, this is a setup here, silver against the 60-40. It's coming out of this monster base here, and it's not quite yet up to the 2020 and the 2016 peak. Has a little bit more to go. So this just needs to push up a little bit more. Again, this is silver divided by the 60-40. But if it can get up to the red line and close there, this is a monthly chart, so we're looking at monthly closes. If it closes there, then you have another 10-year long base. And so this is the setup for silver against the 40. When you see this, moving like that, that tells us a lot of capital is moving out of conventional assets, it's moving out of stocks and bonds and going into silver. And so that is the shift that's really needed, or that's the power behind what will ultimately push silver above $50 an ounce. So that's the intermarket analysis part. Now let's zoom in on intermarket analysis further. Now this is a weekly chart. I'm using Big PX, which is a 60/40 fund. My data tracks this perfectly. So this gives us a better look at the last 10 years or so. So weekly chart, silver against a 60/40 here, silver against the stock market. Now this is important because this is 60% of this. And so what this is showing us in weekly terms, this is actually a 5-year high with respect to silver against the 60/40. So the weekly close, this is a bar chart, so you don't see the weekly closes. You'll have to trust my word. But this weekly close right here, that is a 5-year high for silver against the 60/40. And so again, we need to see this push up further, get to this point, then you're testing this, not just a 10, it's an 11-year long base at this point. And who knows, maybe it tests it, consolidates, and then breaks out in 2026. Then you're looking at a 12-year long base at that point. So we're not there yet, but this gives us a better view because we're looking at 10 years rather than 100 years. You have to look at all time frames. Now, silver against the SIX market, again, this is 60% of silver against the 60/40. Look at where we are. We are on the cusp, or I should say silver is on the cusp of getting ready to break out of a 4-year long base against the S&P 500. So this is really significant here because if this baby breaks out like that, that's going to lead to this moving up to here and testing that resistance. So all these charts are important, but this gives us a picture of where we are with respect to silver against the 60/40. It's making progress, hasn't quite broken out yet, but this is the first domino to fall when you see silver against the stock market breaking out here like that. That's the first domino to fall. That's going to lead to this going up to here. And then later, probably at some point in 2026, we'll see this baby break out. And again, that's the fuel for silver breaking above 50 because you need capital to come out of other areas and into silver to make that move above 50. Okay, now let's look at some potential price targets where we could see silver get to, assuming it could break $50 in the next year or two. Now, this is one of my favorite analog charts. So this is silver's performance after gold breaks out to a new all-time high. Now, there's 3 times that gold has done this historically: 1972, 1978, and then 2009, and then 2024. And so this is plotted on the scale of 2024. We started all these moves a week or two before gold made that breakout. So this is started February 20th, 2024. So the black is this move in silver, whereas you can see here the other moves. 1972 is in light blue, 2009 is in dots. The average here of the 3 moves is in dots. Then you have the average of the 2 moves right here is in dots. And we're far enough along here where, okay, this is the 1978 to 80 move that went parabolic. So this is up to basically $100, basically where we are here and now. I know some people want me to keep this on the chart, so I left it on the chart, but we're not going parabolic in silver yet. We're not at the very end of the secular bull market. So you can ignore this line. And that's why I have an average here where I'm only looking at 2. And so I've said in past videos and tweets, if you look here at the light blue and the black, they're not perfectly together, but, you know, somewhat fairly similar. And again, this is 1972. And what happens with the 1972 line on the 2024 scale? I love this. It moved up here to 49, down to 42. And look, that's a cup handle right here. Broke out here, quick retest. Boom. Look at that. Beautiful cup and handle pattern here. I'd love to see silver get up to 50, test it, and then pull back to 40, 41, and then make its way up to 50 again and breaking out the same way it did in 1972. But we can see here the 1972 line, and again, this goes up close to, I think it's about $100. And that's all the way to, or I should say all the way in April 20th. I don't know if silver's going to get to $100 at that, but it's got to get to 50 first and then break 50. So I think we're running a little bit behind the blue, and also we're running a little bit behind these averages. Or this is 2009, whereas the other line is 2009 and 1972. And so I think you could see something play out like these three lines, although, again, here and now we're lagging as far as time. So these moves, maybe we can make these moves, but maybe they happen around the middle of 2026, or maybe even after that point, because this cup and handle basically lasted, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4.5, this basically lasted 4.5 months. So where we are here and now, we still need to get to 49 or 50 plus another 4.5 months. So if we don't get to 50 until the end of the year, and then it's 2026, then maybe we break out at that point. So in the second half of 2026, maybe we could duplicate these types of moves. But the other thing I want to mention, I know I showed this chart before, and look, it's clear to everybody we're setting up for a significant breakout out of this base. But think back to copper in 2004, 2005, breaking out of, I think it was a 33 or 30-year long base. And you had oil in 2004, 2005 breaking out of a 24-year long base. Those two commodities, after those significant breakouts, they made huge moves after those breakouts. So thinking about those moves, and also thinking about what the measured upside target would be when silver breaks 50, it's basically about $96. And I think about the potential time based on the copper and oil breakouts. You could see silver after it breaks 50, that could get up to $95, $90, $96, 12 to 18 months after that breakout. So if it breaks $50 sometime in 2026, maybe in late 27 or early 28, you could see $100 silver. So those are my thoughts for silver. I'm going to have to leave it there. But let me know what you think. Do you have any price targets or expectations the next year or two? Would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoy the end of your Labor Day weekend. I look forward to publishing another video for you guys in the coming days. Going to have our monthly wrap up with Vince Lancy coming. Thank you and all the best.